sorts of things they might announce, or what kinds of things might happen this year for Pokemon, because right now we don't know much about what's coming up. And I also was thinking about some of the things that I want to see. So I'll be discussing some predictions and some things that I would personally like, whether they're likely to happen or not. And I wanted to start by talking about the games, because that is probably my here's my personal idea for this, because there's a lot of time travel-y, past and future themes in Pokemon, and especially with Scarlet and Violet having past and future paradox Pokemon. I want the next Legends style game to be set in the future. I think it would be possibility. It's something I know a lot of collectors like, would be a steel book. I think it'd be a neat thing to get in a collector's edition, a special steel case of the game. So that would be another possible thing that I'd love to see, because steelbooks are just neat. But I think my absolute most wanted thing to include in some sort of collector's edition, or even just a pre-order bonus, is something that they already do in Japan, and that would be an art book. These are Japanese edition art books that were released as pre-order bonuses through the Pokémon Center in Japan. And I've done a video flipping through the Scarlet and Violet ones of these. I'll link it in the description if you're interested. This one was the one for Legends Arceus. And they're short, not many pages, and a lot of the art is just official art of the Pokemon. But they do include some setting materials and concept art as well. That is just super cool to look at. I love this kind of thing. And some of the more recent ones, like the Scarlet Violet ones and this one, are this smaller size, which would be perfect for including in a small collector's edition box. This one for Sun and Moon is a bit larger. So this size might be a little more impractical, but I think it's a real missed opportunity to not have something like this for the Western releases of the games. And this one even came with a special CD, and I've actually never put this in anything. I'm not sure if it has songs on it, or if it just has like a PDF of the art. I've never opened it, but that's cool. Whatever's on there, it's cool that it came with that as well. And these are hard to get now. They're very expensive. At least I think for the size that they are. So I think it would help if they had a larger initial release of these sorts of things. And just to give you an idea of like, when I say I like art books, I mean it. I love art books. So these are all games that came with these little mini art books with their collection possibility of maybe some spin-off titles. We obviously recently got Detective Pikachu Returns, and somewhat recently, new Pokemon Snap. But aside from these, we really haven't had a ton of spin-offs recently. I think it'd be really neat to see some more spin-offs because I really enjoy spin-off titles for like every franchise. Sometimes I'm like more interested in the spin-offs than I am the actual game. Pokemon is definitely no exception. There are a lot of really great spin-off titles in the Pokemon franchise. The ones that I have here, but there's also the stadium type games, like Coliseum, Stadium 1 and 2, and then the Ranger games. Even the puzzle games are pretty fun. I think looking at the release schedule of spin-off titles, there's definitely room for either a remake or a remaster of an older spin-off title, or maybe an entirely new one. We had the original Detective Pikachu in 2018, Mystery Dungeon DX in 2020, as well as Smile and Cafe Remix, if you count those. And then we had New Snap in 2021, and that year Unite also came out. And then there was nothing in 2022, and 2023 had Sleep and Detective Pikachu Returns. Mystery Dungeon is both likely and unlikely because they have to work with Spike Chunsoft, and Spike Chunsoft just is releasing a new Mystery Dungeon game of their own right now, Sharon the Wanderer. So I don't think it's likely that they're going to want to compete with themselves, their own game. So unfortunately, I don't think we're getting a new Mystery Dungeon this year. But the fact that they are still continuing with Sharon the Wanderer makes me think that revisiting a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game is not out of the question, because there is still demand, especially since the last new one, because the last one was a remake, so the last new one was 2015, and it only had gens 1 through 6, so it'd be nice to get an updated one that had gens 7 through 9 included. And then probably super unlikely, but something that I think a lot of fans want, so it would make sense because I think it would sell well, would be some type of new stadium type game. episodes, but I certainly hope that they do. Okay, so that's games and then TV and movies covered. Next area, and one of the ones that is most interesting to me, besides the games, are the plush. We'll kind of move into like a general merch kind of category, but we'll start with plush. And I think it's somewhat likely that we will get the Gen 6 Sitting Cuties this year. So Sitting Cuties, if you don't know, they're called Pokémon Fit in Japan, and they're these small plush that most of them are designed to sit, which is why they're called Sitting Cuties. And they're fairly inexpensive, although the price keeps going up every time they come out every year. And they were doing kind of like yearly releases, there was, some major worldwide event that caused a bit of a delay, but we had obviously Mousehold. This is an older one, but this is the Tomy Galarian Ponyta. So we can expect that they'll finish out Gen 9. Then there's also Re-ment figures. I've unboxed some Re-ment figures on my channel. I'll link that as well in the description. And I love these. They're very small, so they don't take up very much shelf space. And when you get the full set of usually 6, they often make a scene. Like this one came with the back alley ones, and I have the whole set of those. And they've already announced the next one of that style of setting a scene Re-ment, and it's called the Old Castle Ruins. It comes out in May, and it looks very cool. I'm debating getting it because it just is super neat. As far as some more expensive figures go, well, there's Figma from Good Smile. Figma are cool because they're posable, they have interchangeable parts, with different face plates and stuff. And unless I'm mistaken, I don't think they've announced any new Figma for Pokemon recently. So I'm hoping we get some more of these. They'll probably do the player character, because they just announced a figure of Florian with Fuecoco just a couple days ago. It's not a Figma, it's just a standard figure. But I would love if they did Nimona. But I'd also like them to revisit some past characters like Adaman. And it would also be neat to get posable Figma of Pokemon, so not just the trainer characters. Next up, we will move on to manga. And I don't think there's a ton to report on with a manga, but the Scarlet and Violet manga for the Pokemon Adventures series has started coming out in Japan as of last year. It probably won't come out until maybe even next year, at least in the US, because they're still releasing Sword and Shield right now. The next one coming out for Sword and Shield is Volume 9, comes out in April. Otherwise, I don't think there's any other news for upcoming other manga. I'd like to see more like this that kind of incorporates the anime into a manga version, or maybe other spin-offs like the Pokemon Horizon little mini series of manga. But again, there haven't been any announcements for that. And then I'm probably the only person that wants this, but I really like these pocket comics, and they haven't made a new one in a while. I think the most recent one was X and Y, us at least. But as somebody who loves art books, I'd love to see more stuff like this. This one is for the trading card game, and it shows several of the illustrations from some of the sets, and it'll tell you the artist, what set it came from, and then they even have these little blurbs of information from the artist. As far as I'm aware, this is the only book of the TCG art that is out there. I could be wrong. But, like, look how cool all this information. It's super neat. And I'd love to get something like this for each So